You will not find me posing on those stages covered in a spray tan and body oil ever again.
We went for a Guinness World Record for the most number of authors signing the book simultaneously.
I like how everyone felt like, oh yeah, no, we know.
Yeah.
Oh, he doesn't know? I go straight to the vision board. Talk to me. It talks, right? They talk. It's March 13th, 2025. This is Roqe. Welcome to episode 363 of Roqe. I'm Jian Gomeshi. Hello to you from Toronto. Hello to you from Canada. Salam Dustan Aziz. Durud ba shoma. Hope you are doing well wherever you are tuning in from around the world. Spring is almost here. It's a Nowruz time of year. Wishing an excellent sofre to you with serke, sabzi, sib, somag too. All of that. Today we wanted to bring you an episode on having bravery to shift your focus and make a big change in your life when you're no longer a teenager or say in your early 20s. Shaking things up. What kind of strength does it take to turn your back on the career you were convinced to have or the path you were culturally pressured into following and to do something completely different? Now, we've called this episode The Courage to Redefine Ourselves. Later in the show, I'll be joined by Dr. Katty Bidad here in the Roqe Studio. She's one of the top Iranian book publishers on an independent level around the world. And she's also a huge proponent of reading, writing books, and telling our stories, and a successful publisher at that. And that's interesting because she actually spent most of her life so far, up until a few years ago, as a medical doctor. Then, in her 30s, she left medicine for her passion of books and has not looked back and has redefined her life as a prominent Iranian-Canadian woman here in Toronto. That's the story of Katty Bidad. We'll get to Dr. Katty here. But first, the special guest we had here this past weekend as part of our Ideas at the Roqe Hub series, and an Iranian woman who has also had the courage to step out of her comfort zone and redefine her life despite being on the cusp of 50 years old. Not that that's old. In fact, she has redefined transformation, not just in theory, but in practice. She's a psychotherapist, a life coach, an author, someone who helps others navigate their own journeys of self-discovery. But perhaps most strikingly, at the age of 49, she decided to step onto a stage of a very different kind, competing in a bikini fitness competition, shattering expectations, defying norms, and proving that reinvention really has no expiry date. Sara Rahimi's story is one of resilience, self-acceptance, breaking through the barriers, both societal and personal, that often hold us back. In her memoir, Little Sara of Tehran, she shares her journey from a childhood in Iran to building a new life in Canada, overcoming cultural constraints, finding her own voice. As a therapist and coach, she spends her days helping others build self-esteem and reclaim their own sense of purpose. But her most recent endeavor, entering the world of competitive fitness, adds a fascinating new chapter to her evolution. What drives someone to push their own limits physically and mentally in their late 40s? What does that say about our perceptions of aging, of confidence, of strength? As I say, Sara joined us this past weekend for a sold-out event here at our space, and we're going to give you that now, both her inspiring talk about identity, ambition, and the courage to reinvent ourselves at any age, in any field, on any stage, and also our on-stage interview as well. From the latest event of our Ideas at the Roqe Hub series, here is Sara Rahimi.
Thank you so much, Jian. Hi, everyone. How are you? Are you excited? Yes. Thank you so much for being here. And I can see so many familiar faces. That's amazing. And Sara June, thank you so much. It's my honor to have you here tonight with us. So, are you ready? Yes. Yes. I'm going to start with a question. When was the last time you did something for the first time? And when I say first time, I don't mean anything expected or safe. Something that you did that made people raise eyebrows and say, "You're doing what?" So let me give you a story. A few years ago, I was sitting in my condo downtown and flipping through a fitness magazine, where casually my now husband, then boyfriend, Matthew, casually pointed at a ridiculously fit woman in a bikini competition suit. And he said, "You could do this." My first reaction, I was offended. Excuse me? You want me to go on the stage in that half a bikini, almost naked, and let people judge me? Who do you think I am? آبروی خانواده چی میشه? I'm not that one of those girls. So you see, like so many of you, I grew up in Iran, with a culture with so many spoken and unspoken rules, especially for women. Be fit, be beautiful, but not too muscular. Don't be gulach. Be happy, but don't laugh too hard. Don't speak too much. Don't take up too much space. Don't show too much skin. Be a good girl. Whatever you do, do not challenge the status quo. And you see, modesty wasn't just about what you wear. It was about how you show up in a world as a woman. So I was a good girl. I wanted to be a good girl. So I followed all of that. I studied something that I didn't like because my parents did. And I married my boyfriend at a young age. And I got a career. Of course, don't forget, when you have a career and when you work and when you do all of this, like be successful but not too successful. Because for women, there are other priorities. Good mom, good wife, and a good daughter. So I was working, but you know, the way that my ex-husband liked it. So I did all of that, and I checked all the boxes. But something was missing, something inside me. The part of me that was bold, fearless, and curious. The shaytoon part of me was just disappearing. And to be honest, I thought, okay, that's life. And I was just continuing living like that until I moved to Canada. Then I started little by little questioning everything. I questioned my beliefs, I questioned my values, I questioned my identity, I questioned my place in a world as a woman. And I asked myself, Sara, what if you're not following any of these rules, any of these societal expectations? What if I decided to be the boldest version of myself at any age. So little by little, I started doing that. So I started with jumping out of the airplane, skydiving, and I thought, wow, that was amazing. And then I realized, okay. I still have lots of fears here. So the boldest version of me in my early 40s quit her job and started her business. The boldest version of me went back to school at 44 to get my master's degree. The boldest version of me published her book at 45. The boldest version of me started her psychotherapy business at 46. The boldest version of me married again at 48. Believe me, that was a very bold move. And the boldest version of me stepped on the bikini competition stage at 49 last November. Was it easy? God, no. Especially some of the women in the audience, if you know what I mean by hormonal changes, as a perimenopausal woman with all those crazy hormonal changes, going through the training that I was going through and the diet that I was going through, everything. Oh my goodness, to get the flat tummy going on a stage and not having any carbs for 72 hours for 3 months? Poor Matthew. So I challenged everything that I was taught about women, how we should act, how we should look, and how we should move through the world at any age. But you see, when I stepped on that stage, King Kong, by the way, some of you know this, yes, which is the biggest bikini competition stage in Canada among all these other 300 athletes. I was there to compete, but competing wasn't my intention. I was there to make a statement that women can rewrite their stories at any age. So yes, it wasn't just about me. It's also about you, Sara June. So you might say, oh, Sara, this is amazing. But you know what? I don't really want to be a bikini competitor. And I get it. It's okay. That's not the point. And believe me, you will not find me posing on those stages covered in a spray tan and body oil ever again. Ever. But that's not the point. The point is, what is your version of that stage? What is the dream? What is something that you so wanted so badly, but you have been putting it off for too long because you think, az man gozashte. Sara June, I'm too old. What is it? Maybe it's learning how to dance. Maybe it's starting your business. Maybe it's wearing a red lipstick just because you feel like it. What is that dream? I want you to think about it. So I've come to understand that I'm not defined by my age or a number, nor by the expectations that others have placed on me. And my dreams don't have any expiry date. They're not لبنیات که تاریخ انقضا داشته باشن. And to be honest, the true strength isn't about achieving things physically. It's about the courage to decide who you want to be, who you truly want to be every single day. So think about it. And here's my challenge for you. What is one dream that you have been putting off for too long? And are you ready to step onto that stage and make people raise eyebrows and show the world who you are? The answer is in your hands. The stage is yours. Go claim it. Thank you so much.
Today's edition of Roqe is brought to you in part by I Welcome. I Welcome is the one and only Iranian-Canadian company in premier tour, travel, and limo transportation. I Welcome redefines every journey with a modern fleet and professional drivers, ensuring that whether you're enjoying a scenic city tour, traveling for business, or arriving in style at a special event, you experience unmatched comfort and reliability. With I Welcome, your ride becomes a luxurious extension of your lifestyle. Now, I've had the pleasure of riding in one of the luxury cars that Amin and his team at I Welcome have in their fleet. And if you are anywhere in the Greater Toronto Area, you must use them for your travel needs. You can find them at iwelcome.ca. Once again, that is iwelcome.ca. It occurred, you know, as you were talking, I was remembering that you're a psychotherapist. As someone who's had a lot of therapists, I sometimes when I'm talking to my therapist, I go, you know, she'll say something like, yeah, because I got into an argument with my husband, and I'll be, oh yeah, this is a person too. They don't have it all figured out. Is it interesting for your clients sometimes to learn that the master who is their psychotherapist is also struggling with the things that they're coming to you for?
Of course, yeah. And we are humans too. And I actually like it that I disclose sometimes. I disclose some of my personal life with my clients because they actually tell me that they feel better, knowing that I have my own struggles in life. It's not that I'm perfect. So yes.
It is actually heartening when I learned that my therapist is flawed. It feels like a victory of some kind.
That's mean.
If one of your friends or clients were to come to you and say exactly what you just said at the end of your talk there, which is, look, I just think I'm too old. Our last episode asked the question, or our second last episode asked the question, is it too old to learn a language? Because it came to me, it was inspired by the idea that there's so many Iranians coming to a place like Toronto now that don't seem to want to learn English. And sometimes their answer to that is, I'm too old to, you know, and you're kind of like, well, you're 36. How, you know, is this too old? How do you answer that question, whether it's about dreams or something practical like learning English, that it's not too old?
Jian, I try to lead by example. And unfortunately, the way that we talk about age in our culture, as you say, like, oh, I'm 30 something or I'm 40, sometimes people talk the way as if it's time to retire, honestly. And I'm like, you still have so many years ahead of you. what are you gonna do with that? And everything that I do in my life, even just, you know, the bikini competition that I did, I'm just trying to obviously challenge myself mentally and physically if I have to, but also show people that if you put your mindset into that, you can do this.
How do you do that? That's the question.
How you put your mindset into that?
Yeah, I mean, how do you shake it up and go, it's like you. What was the moment where you were like, fuck it, okay, bikini contest, let's go? Because it's, I mean, how did that happen?
I think as you get older, to be honest, you care less about what people say. No? You don't think so?
It depends. I feel like in some cases you care more about what some people say.
No.
No?
It's like I'm getting older and...
That's what I've always thought. It's great if the older people give less of a, you know, but go ahead, finish your thought.
So let me tell you something. I lost both my parents kind of very young. Like my dad passed away when I was 24 and my mom passed away when I was 35. So I honestly don't think that I lived that long. And sometimes I think, okay, I'm almost 50, and how many more years do I have to live? And how I want to live those years? Because when I look back, I'm like, where did it go? It was like boom, boom, boom. As if I just came here like, I don't know, yesterday.
Yeah.
Where did all those years go, right? So what is it that I want to do with my life? What was the vision? When I moved to Canada, I had a vision. And I always remind myself, Sarah, you didn't come to Canada just to come to Canada. You wanted to have your freedom to do whatever you want. So go ahead. If you want to do bikini competition, go ahead.
But
There's no
you said that it was after you came to Canada that you questioned everything.
Yes. Well, so here's the thing. Growing up in Iran, I used to watch programs like Oprah Winfrey. Always.
The great Persian broadcaster, Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah, yeah. And Dr. Phil and, you know.
Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil and Oprah Winfrey. So, and I was always so amazed by all the women on the show. So amazed that, oh wow, like these women are so powerful, they're so confident, they're so inspiring, they do whatever they want to do. And if you look at all my vision boards now, I'm just telling you this now. So if you look at my vision boards, like back in 2000, let's say 14, 15.
I don't even know what a vision board is. Is it a whiteboard on a wall?
It's.
Don't talk to me of this coaching stuff. What's a vision board? I don't.
People, do you know what vision board is?
What is it? That's some weird, I don't know what that is. What is a vision board?
It's a board.
Is it an actual physical
board.
thing? Yeah.
It's a board, yeah, like
that
a
has a vision on
whiteboard.
it.
Yeah, that
All
has
right,
your
well,
vision on
You
it.
could have just said that. You didn't have to humiliate
It's called vision board.
Okay, when you look, I've never heard it called a vision board. I thought it was like, I thought that was a meditation game or something. Let's do vision board. I call it a whiteboard. Thing on the this big white thing on the.
Okay, to-do list. My to-do list for the next 5 years.
I like how everyone felt like, oh yeah, no, we know.
Yeah.
Oh, he doesn't know.
You sure you have a therapist?
Yeah, my therapist is. I think she just quit me. She's gonna let me go now. Therapists can't do that, right? You can't let your client go. If she finds out I don't have a vision board, is she gonna fire me as her client? She's been through worse. It's
You
okay.
don't have a vision, just go to her and say, how come I don't have a vision board?
How come I don't know what a vision board is? Even worse, yeah. Maybe that's my problem. I've never had one.
So many coaches here. So, yeah. But anyways, yeah, on the vision board,
Oh,
I always had an interview. I mean, me being interviewed by
Oprah?
Infiri. Now
I'm
I'm
sorry?
being interviewed by you, which is amazing. So, you know, just that would be the
Thank
next
you for
level.
finally saying something good about me.
That would be the next level, you know. So, so in my head, it was always like, I want to be like those women, you know, inspiring, empowered, free, doing whatever I want to do. So I always remind myself, don't forget why you came to this country. You didn't come to this country just to come to this country to live.
I'm going to ask you a question. First of all, let me ask you about aging, because it also occurred to me as I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about you, and as I was listening to you just now, I was thinking, as an interviewer, I'm always fascinated with the idea of aging and death, and you know, but those questions are usually reserved for people in their fourth act, as Frank Sinatra would sing, in the autumn of their years. Maybe somebody who's a senior, somebody who's in their 80s or something, you think, you approach an interview and you go, I've got to ask them about what it's like to, you know, they might die in the next few years. You don't usually ask people about aging at any other point. You don't interview a 30-year-old and say, how do you feel about aging? You know, unless it's particularly germane to their field, maybe a ballerina or a hockey player who's suddenly, you know, too old at the age of 32 or something. How do you feel about aging? Does it freak you out? Are you scared of it?
I would say I feel, I don't know, conflicted. Because I love it, but I'm also scared. Again, like going back to my parents, and this is something that a lot of people might not know here, but last year I had an episode, like a temporary episode of dementia at the gym when I was working out. I did a lot of MRI and stuff, and they found something like a tumor in my head. I'm still trying to, they're still trying to figure out what it is. But the thing is that, yes, I do think about...
Shit got real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so what if, like, in the past few days, I just, you know, sleeping with a headache on one side and then waking up with this crazy, severe, splitting headache, and I'm like, oh shit, like, what if it's that, you know? And I'm still waiting to see a neurosurgeon. So it scares me, but at the same time, it's a force for me to think about the quality of my life and the dreams I still want to pursue.
You said there's you like it too. What's the part you like?
The fact that I have experienced a lot of things, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of beautiful moments, a lot of even challenges, and the way that I grew, you know, I like it. And again, the part that I'm getting older, I can do whatever I want. And I care less about what people say or what people think of me. I like that part. Yeah, I'm like, I just do whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't really think about that, Oberu.
What's that?
I don't think about that Oberu that much
Aberu,
anymore.
yeah. Oh, Aberu, yeah.
Oh, Oberu.
Listen, when I think of Aberu, I consult my vision board. And I go straight to the vision board. Talk to me. It talks, right? They talk. It's an animal, is it? Not unrelated to that question. Sorry to get serious with this, but and I want to frame this question delicately because there's nothing about what you've done, really, in terms of the bikini contest, et cetera, that I don't find empowering. And I don't, and by the way, a lot of the things that you're saying are framed as being important to women, but I think a lot of those rules apply with men as well, in terms of fear of, you know, putting ourselves out there and things like that. Where is the line between wanting to shake up your life and do something like that in midlife, as they used to call it, and doing something that would traditionally, at least, maybe it's wrong, be considered less respectable? There's a term that used to be used, I don't even know, maybe this is like dodgy now or something, that called midlife crisis. And it referred to the man, usually, who, you know, turns 50 and feels the need to like buy a Porsche and, you know, change his friends and start dating an 18-year-old, Playboy model, or I don't know, whatever, to kind of validate himself, and that's usually seen in a negative way. Explore that. Explore where the difference is between empowerment and someone who's lost their way and are desperately trying to cling on to some kind of youth.
I think the difference is the awareness. When you have awareness, when you have worked on yourself and you have awareness and you know who you are, you know what your values are, you know what your vision is, that's the difference. When you don't know who you are, it's kind of like you're confused about your values. You're confused about your identity. Who am I, right? Whereas when you do work on yourself, then to you it's not like, oh, so let me just try all these different paths to see which one is mine. It's more of a, oh, okay, I know this is mine, so I'm just on track, and I'm just going to get there. And I do what scares me, and like for me, that was my strategy, I guess, after I moved here. It was, even before I moved here, I guess, with my first starting with, you know, the immigration, moving here, and then divorce and everything. So it was, be afraid, but face your fear.
Yeah.
But do it. Because every time that you face your fear, every time that you put yourself out there, your sense of, I would say, confidence goes up. It's kind of like, oh, okay, so I did it. I went on the stage. Yeah, people maybe laughed at me. I didn't die. Now I'm more confident because I believe in myself. I can do this. It didn't kill me. So for me, that's the line, the awareness that you have.
The bikini competition didn't come out of nowhere, in the sense that you're an athlete. You were an athlete as a kid. Yeah, and part of your story is that you were a great athlete. You were a great gymnast who, presumably, if you were growing up somewhere like here with your parents having a different emphasis for you, you may have gone to the Olympics or, followed that path. And instead you had this Persian stereotypical, you have to quit that and you have to go into academia and study medicine, some form of medicine. Not that there's anything wrong with that, Mom. How did that inform the rest of your life to this day? To the bikini competition? I mean, to really feeling like you weren't being, we've titled this, Be the Person Who You Always Wanted to Be. How did that journey affect who you wanted to be?
So, yes, I was a great gymnast. I got a medal when, I don't know if you remember Qasr Yakh and, Amjadieh. So, and my instructor told my mom and my dad to send me to Russia to become the next greatest gymnast, Nadia Comaneci. And they freaked out and they stopped taking me to classes.
Very practical. Those are Persian parents.
Yeah. So, and I loved literature. I loved psychology. I loved, languages. And obviously that was a no. No, just go do medicine. But for me, stepping on that stage or even thinking about it. So when Matt actually mentioned that and I got offended, I was like, no way, Aberu. But then I was thinking about it when I started training, and I realized that, something in me was very, nagging. Come on, Sarah, walk your talk. This is what you're teaching other people, And for me, it was, again, that part of Shaytun part of me, or the curious part of me to do that. And having the sense of, that part of me being a gymnast or just going on the stage again. Obviously very different, but it played a big role. But again, just coming here thinking that how people live a very different life here. They don't just listen to their parents. They actually do whatever they want.
Or a combination.
Or a
combination sometimes.
Exactly, a healthy combination. So that's why, and don't forget, when I came here, I went through a bad divorce, and I was alone here. I had already lost my father, and then I lost my mother. So, so when sometimes you think that, if I didn't have all these people in my life, decision-making would be so easy. But to be honest, it's so difficult. Because sometimes, there is a friend, there's a sister, there's a mother, there's a father, there's this, there's a husband, and you're like, let's, consult. What do you think I should do? But when you're all by yourself, you're like, what am I supposed to do now? What if I make a mistake? What about the rest of the family back home? Or, they're going to say. So yes, for me, it was, you move to this country, you're challenging all your beliefs and all your values that you grew up with. And, it's basically your place to live and just pursue your dreams. What are you waiting for?
One of the things that, when you talk about fear of doing something new, you started your talk saying, when was the last time you did something new, totally new? And there's fear around that. What's the fear? The fear is that I'm going to be bad at it. So what? People are going to criticize me. I'm going to do something that is going to invite criticism. So you're in a room of people who obviously think what you did is wonderful and find you empowering, as countless thousands of people out there do who follow you and love you. But surely, even just doing the research for this, I saw in the comments section, there's people who take shots at you and stuff, and you're aware of that. How did you get yourself ready for that criticism? What was the criticism, and how do you deal with it?
The criticism. خجالت نمیکشی لخت تو این سن رفتی رو استیج؟ فکر کردی هنر کردی؟ So I got lots of those messages. It's tough. It's very tough. So the thing is, if you go back, if you see like our ancestors, like thousands of years ago, millions of years ago, people used to live in tribes, right? So that was a survival strategy. So
What was? Living in tribe?
living in tribes, right? And as we as humans, we are wired for connection, like our ancestors, right? And we don't want to be judged. We don't want to be criticized, because if we do, then we think that we are not part of that group. We don't belong. And for us, not belonging is very scary.
Yeah.
It's so scary. So people, that's why people's judgment is so important for us. And we want to have our friends, our families, and everybody's approval. But that's our survival strategy. And the survival strategy worked for me and for all of us when we were younger, you know, because we didn't have anywhere else to go. We had our family. We wanted to make sure that our parents are good with us. You know, they love us. You know, they're taking care of us. But as an adult, that survival strategy is not working for us anymore. If I want to keep thinking about what other people might think about me and how they're going to criticize me, then it means that I will never try. And you will never know unless you try.
How do you avoid it?
Avoid what? You can't avoid it.
Exactly. In an era where to do the kind of work that you do, you have to put yourself out there, as I do, as probably a lot of people in the audience here do. I don't even like social media, to be honest. I do it because I have to. You know, you have to do it. You have to get out there. You have to tell people, you have to take pictures. You have to make videos. You do all of that nonsense. You know, it's not always nonsense, but you know, some of it is. And the currency of that is getting likes and, you know, nice comments and this is a successful psychotherapist. Look how many likes she has, right? So how do you avoid caring about that when it's part of your business?
I do read all the comments, and if there is any constructive feedback, I do pay attention to that. But if it's any hate message, I try, of course it upsets me, but I just try to ignore it. And then I focus on all the other positive messages that I'm getting from all these amazing people sitting here, or my followers that say, oh my God, Sara June, you're inspiring us. Oh my God, Sara June, all these videos that you go to the gym or doing this or doing that, you know, it motivated me to go back to the gym and work out and exercise. I feel much better. So I do focus on the positive ones, and I just try to ignore the negative ones, because there are always haters, always. No matter what you do, there are always people who don't like you, who don't agree with you, who hate you. They don't want to سر به تنت باشه sometimes.
If you put your psychologist hat on, what's going on when somebody says something stupid like, you got naked in front of the camera, are you proud of yourself now? What's going on there? What's going on with that person? I always wonder why someone would take the energy to actually make that comment, you know, even if they're thinking it. It's like, what is your, this is what
Jian, you don't know how many angry people we have?
Yeah. Yeah.
There are so many people who have a lot of anger, and they need an outlet. They need somebody just to take their anger out on them. And they don't think that they may hurt people. Even if they do, they're like, whatever, I feel better. they have a lot of anger. They have a lot of unresolved inner issues.
Feels like it's getting worse, doesn't it? Feels like it's a very angry world. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very angry. Very angry. Because and don't forget, people grow up with different beliefs and values. The way that I see things are very different from the way that somebody else sees things. You know, that person, I don't know, maybe they don't hate me, but they do actually think that, holy crap, like she's naked and why is she so proud of it? And I don't give it any meaning, to be honest. I just observe. I'm like, okay, so there's a comment, somebody's angry, and she's just trying to take it out on me.
You talk about culture, notwithstanding the situation in Iran, the government, patriarchy, you know, you and I are of a certain vintage, you know, I mean, and so we talk about stereotypes, we talk about the experience of being Iranians, our parents, like that type of thing. Do you think, I mean, and in your practice, if you're, presumably you have some people that you speak to who are younger or in their teens or 20s or something, do you think it's getting better? Do you think for Iranians, say, when it comes to gender roles, the kind of pressures that you faced are lesser now that progress is being made?
Yeah. Yes. The pressure is way less, I would say. Still, there are so many families. Shiva Jun works with lots of parents and kids. She knows better. But yes, but I also think that it actually puts a lot of pressure on parents because they know that the system is very different here, and they know that they have to be more open-minded when it comes to a lot of things, and educating their kids, but it's very difficult for them. So they have conflicting feelings, and that's why there is a lot of pressure on them too.
I want you guys to get ready to ask a question or make a comment if you feel like it. Before we get there, I'm focused on some of the negative, the criticism and all of that type of thing, and how difficult it is. Tell me something that really made your day or made this experience in terms of a reaction you got or a story someone told you based on what you've done in the last few months that really, really heartened you.
I don't know. I got so many heartfelt messages. And all the women that telling me that, wow, Sara Jun, what you did is something that I always wanted to do. And now I'm gonna go do it. It just warms my heart. Or even when they say that, wow, what you did was amazing, and you always surprise us, that age is really nothing. So guess what? I started this or that at university. I started studying this. I'm like, yes.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's nice. You hear from men as well? Okay, maybe not. Maybe they're... Really? You don't hear from any guys going...
Yes,
yeah.
but not too many.
Uh-huh. Maybe they feel awkward. What are they going to say? I mean, what's that?
Oh, yeah.
Is there maybe that's a gender thing? Do the guys know what a vision board is? No, the guys are all like, what the fuck is that?
Oh, come on.
I mean, because we're chopping down trees and fixing cars.
Oh, yeah.
I must say, this series is about ideas, conversations, ideations, and we've accomplished mission. And thanks to you. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for showing the way for so many of us and for the work that you do. And It's been something we've talked about doing for a long time. I'm so glad that we could make it happen. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you.
We are going to have a reception. We'll take about 5 minutes to remove the seats. And so please eat, drink, stay. And once again, thank you, Sara Rahimi.
Thank you. Thank you, Jian. Let's see how I can. Thank you so much.
Today's edition of Roqe is brought to you in part by Apadana Entertainment, one of our premier promotion companies for Iranian events and concerts here in Canada. Apadana are bringing Siavash Qomeshi to Toronto and Vancouver this June. I think there's still tickets available for the Toronto show. Get them fast. Before that, on April 19th, Apadana welcome a major concert event here in Toronto featuring Shohreh, Andy, Donya, and Shani. This is at Meridian Hall here in Toronto. Don't miss this. April 19th. Tickets are on sale now at ticketmaster.ca. Andy, Shohreh, and more on one night, April 19th, ticketmaster.ca for seats. All right, here we go. Are books still a thing? Let's face it, in a world where screens dominate our attention, we often find ourselves asking, how much do we still need books? What is the enduring power of a book in shaping our stories and preserving our heritage? Surely they remain important to who and what we are. And with that backdrop, to be a publisher, especially within the Iranian diaspora, is to become, you might say, a custodian of these narratives, ensuring that our voices are heard and remembered. And that brings us to my guest today in the Roqe Studio, Dr. Katty Bidad, or Katty, a medical doctor, a PhD in immunology, an entrepreneur, a co-founder of North Star Success. She's also worked as a professor and is the ex-director of the UNESCO Chair in Health Education. You might say she's done very well in the Iranian overachiever scale. As director of publishing at North Star Success, Katty is not only an author herself, but at the forefront of a reinvigorated literary movement, advocating for the importance of writing and sharing our own stories. We want to explore her journey and discover why, in her view, our stories are more vital than ever. And right now, Dr. Katty Bidad joins me in the Roqe Studio. Hello.
Hi, Jian. I'm really happy to be here with you today on a subject I have a great passion for.
First of all, it's great to have you here. You're still under 50 and you've done too much. I mean, you're certainly an overachiever. I don't even know where to start with you, but this idea of books and publishing is something that's very close to my heart as a book person. So I was actually excited to get to talk to you about this because I know how passionate you are. So in an era of AI, presidents sending decrees via Twitter or X, everyone staring at their own videos on Instagram and TikTok addictions. You're a big advocate of books. In fact, you, a doctor, have said that books can help people improve their lives. It sounds like a nice statement. What are you referring to specifically when you say books can improve our lives?
So in today's world, in a fast-paced digital world, books create that pause, a space for reflection, growth, and connection. In today's world, with all these digital distractions around us, books are not about quick scrolling or information. They have their own place for learning, for authentic material, for the content that you want to learn from and grow. So they still have their own place, not for quick fixes, but for intellectual growth.
Do you ever feel like you're swimming upstream, that I mean, everything in society is pushing away from, like it or not, from books, and that you're sort of holding the flag still? Do you feel like you're from a bygone era?
It might seem so, but I don't think really. These statistics show that there are like more than 4 million books published annually. So it shows that there is an interest in books. I mean, yes, we scroll on social media, but at the same time, we need those in-depth material and content when we are thinking about our personal and professional growth. And that's when in today's world we have access to different, experts' opinions and different perspectives. And then books come onto the scene, and you can't ignore them because at the end of the day, people will turn to books for their growth.
What does that mean for their growth?
So if they want to invest on their, profession, if they want to invest on their personal growth, they need some in-depth material, not just the information. And also, in today's world, they need the inspiration that books can just be the best in order to inspire.
You've also used the word credibility when it comes to having books. I mean, that's the idea that if you're an author, if you have your own book, it gives you a certain gravitas that you don't have otherwise.
So in today's world also, let me tell you one thing, that we used to think of authors as very big figures like celebrities, but in today's world, more professionals and more entrepreneurs, they just write their books not just to tell their stories, but to build their brands and also to share their knowledge in a lasting way. And that's the power of the books, that give them visibility, credibility, so their target audience can see them better, can trust them better, and also open new doors and new possibilities for them, like collaborations, speaking, and many things that come after that.
Something that gives me some hope as a person who loves books, I don't know if you've noticed this with your own kids. My nephew, who is full-on Gen Z, as a teenager, is really into books. In fact, rejects at times some of the scrolling, and is into reading classic books and carrying around a book, and sees it almost as a romantic thing to have a book the way it's always been. I'm carrying a novel in my bag. It means I'm a thinking person. Do you find that with your kids? I mean, given that they have two accomplished parents with you and your husband?
Yeah, so my older son, he wakes up and he just grabs his book and comes downstairs and he starts reading before breakfast. And then our very intimate moments during the day and night is the time that we all go upstairs, we grab our books and we read, and then we say goodnight.
Wow.
So for us in family, books still hold a special place. And I am maybe old school, but I never buy them digital books. I always buy them physical books.
I mean, not to go into a rabbit hole about parenting, but I mean, how did you create that environment in the house? I mean, did you have strict guidelines, no iPad or something like that? I mean, if somebody's sitting there who is a parent and doesn't have a kid who's as eager about reading books as yours, what would you say the trick is, as a publisher and as a mom?
It was really difficult because we bought so many books. We got so many books from libraries, and we started reading for them. And until we found their passion, what books interest each of them. And when you find their passion, then they really like it. So I go to library every week. I get around 40 books, and some of them they even don't look at them. Some of them they connect with, and
Wait, you get 40 books from the library every week?
I always have more than 40 on our
And what
accounts.
do? You just put them sit them there, and for anybody who wants.
Yeah.
What a cool idea.
Yeah.
I was thinking, who even goes to libraries?
Oh, we go every week.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love libraries. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. There's something, again, you're talking to a fan of books, but I have a personal library in my house. There's something about having a hard copy of a book. I mean, oftentimes now, I'm interviewing authors, and it's so much easier for them or their publisher or whatever, just send a PDF, send the book digitally. There's something I always, especially if I like the book, I ask for a hard copy or I buy it afterwards, because I feel a sense of ownership somehow over the story, even if it's a novel, even if it's about something that has nothing to do with me. If I have the book, it's something that somehow connects to me. Maybe that's old school, maybe needing that physical, I don't know, in a different way from something that exists just digitally on my computer, you know?
The same for me, like physical books have their own charm still, even for younger ages, like my son. When he reads a story from library and he likes it so much, he asks me to buy it because he wants it in his collection, and then he can tell his friends about this book and just gives this book to his friends as well. And for me, there's something else as well. I like to highlight. I like to write things on the books.
I can't. No, you've crossed the line. I'm too
me.
OCD for that. So like your books have little notes in them.
Yeah.
But then the next person who's reading it is going to see your emphasis, no?
Yeah, that's nice.
You're okay with that? Yeah. Well, actually, I know there's advocates of, interacting with the book. No, to me, I even try to, the hardcovers, I take the cover off to not damage it. My books look like they haven't been read because they're just sitting there so perfect. That's my OCD. It's not just that you're a publisher who's into books, though. You have something more of, if you don't mind me calling it, something more of a mission, it seems, especially within the Iranian diaspora, even though you don't publish just Iranians' books. You believe we should be writing our own story, you say, to be remembered for who we are. What does it mean to you, writing our own story?
So I want you to imagine this. You disappear tomorrow. What story would people say about you? And more importantly, is it the story that you want them to remember? So for most of us, the idea behind leaving a legacy seems daunting. But some people think, who am I to write my story? Am I that successful? Are there any people who read my story? And to answer this, let me tell you a very personal story. My father passed away a few years ago without ever telling his story. And despite all the wisdom he had, despite all the lessons he passed on to me, he never told his story the way he wanted. And you might tell me, you write his story, but this will be my story of him.
Yeah.
It won't be his version. And then I realized it's important to capture our stories. It's about our vision, our hopes, our dreams, and how we want people to remember us and to leave a lasting legacy, to leave a mark. And I think if there's something inside you that tells you you have a message to share, then you should write your story, your book.
How long ago did your dad die?
3.5 years.
Yeah. It really resonates with me, the story of your dad, because I have a similar story where I always had in my mind, my dad, despite the fact that he was of an advanced age, he died quite suddenly. So it wasn't expected. And I always had in my mind that I'm going to sit down and do an interview with my dad. A man who was born, now almost 100 years ago in Khuzestan, I always had it in my mind, I'm going to sit down, roll the camera, and let him tell his story. And it never happened. I've told this before on the show that it's one of my great regrets.
The same for me. One of my greatest regrets that I haven't written his story the way he wanted.
Yeah, or let him write his story.
Yeah.
When did you ever talk to him about doing that? Was it something that you had in mind before he died, or did it come afterwards?
We had a few videos of him, like asking him to tell some parts of his story, and I'm grateful for that because my husband, Shahab, he really did that, and that's the best thing I have from him.
Yeah. what part of your, I mean,
Jian, sorry.
yeah.
For women who come to your show, you need some.
I was just going to say, can we get some, not just for women. There's a lot of men cry as well. Oh, we'll get.
I was thinking I can do it with my fingers, but thank you. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I wanted to ask you and get into more of an intellectual conversation around who, you know, are we the best person to tell our own story? But I mean, just to personalize it, because I know what I would say about my dad. What do you think is missing from, I mean, you know your dad, you have siblings, you could tell his story. You can write a book about him right now and all crowdsource everybody who knew him. And what is the difference between what he would bring to that story and what you could do as his daughter?
So my story of him would be my narrative. I think it would be different from my brother's stories. But I don't know what he really wanted to share. I don't know what was the message he wanted to leave for his grandchildren, for others to know. And certainly it would have been different, not the same thing. But still, my story would be...
Your story.
Yeah, my story of him would be meaningful,
right.
But not his story,
right.
Of course.
Does it matter? This might seem like a weird question, but does it matter what the truth is? I mean, there are different truths. Sometimes I think if I think of a public figure, a highly public, I mean, I suspect that somebody could write a better story of the life of Justin Trudeau so far than he would himself in terms of accuracy of what he's, you know, the good and bad and the positive and the negative. And what does that matter when you're talking about people writing their own stories? Does it matter that somebody's own story may not be what you would find on a crowdsourced Wikipedia about them?
I believe that people nowadays, they read books not to read the stories of achievement. They read to know about real life journeys, those moments of challenges, of hesitation, of doubts, of fears. And I cannot write those moments. I can write what he achieved, what was he like, but I can't say what was his dream, his fears, his visions. How did he want us to be like in his mind? And I think those are the things that people relate to. Those are the real things. And when I talk about his own story, I mean his own real, doubts, hesitations, beliefs, vision, hopes, dreams.
As a metaphor, if you think about somebody journaling, writing a diary, nobody would be able to write that diary for them. That's coming from them. And is everyone worthy of a book? Now, I know as a you're already nodding. I know as a publisher, it's good for business to say that.
Yeah.
But do you really believe that? Do you believe that every human should have a book about themselves?
I think if you have a feeling inside that I have a message to share, if you think there have been challenges that you have overcome, if you have built something from the ground up, then you have to write your book and you have to share your story. So these people know the voice inside them. And is there anyone who reads these stories? I believe so, because wherever in life journey you are, there are people who are behind you, and you can just get their hands and help them overcome some challenges like you did. So it's not for everyone, but I think people who know they should write their stories, they just always have this discussion with themselves that should I write or no? And then I want to inspire those people to start today.
And when you talked about the people who say, I just don't think I'm accomplished enough to write a book and tell the story, or somebody might legitimately say, look, I'm 35, I haven't lived enough, I'm sure I'll have a book to write when I'm 80, but not yet. What do you say to them?
I tell them that you should not wait for a perfect ending. So it's never too early, it's never too late. I mean, when you have something to share, you should share it today. And you don't know what world brings, like, in the future. And I always tell people it's not your last story, it's not your first and last one. It's always the beginning of a journey. So what my experience shows me, when people write their first book, that it's the start and they write more and more. So I always tell them, if you feel that voice inside you that tells you you should share something, then share it today. And it's just the start of an exciting journey.
I have more to ask about that, but let's leave the publishing world for a second and talk about your own story. You grew up in Iran.
Yeah.
You were the baby you were a family with 4 kids, and you're the youngest and the only girl, right?
Yeah.
How did being the youngest and the only girl affect your journey, do you believe?
I think like younger kids have the privilege because the parents are more experienced, and my father and my mother were really caring, and my brothers, they were older than me, and I learned a lot from them. So I think I was privileged in a way.
Did you grow up very well off? Were you a rich kid in Iran?
Middle-class family.
Middle-class family.
But educated.
Educated. But that prototypical, from what I've heard, you were pushed very hard by your parents. Education is really important, achieving, all of that, right?
When I think about it, I think my father and my mother always believed in me, and it made me trust myself that with hard work I can achieve whatever I dream of. And I think that's the important part. And sometimes I think, was it hard? I even don't remember any hardship. Maybe it was at that time, I don't know. But I remember that I started believing in myself and trusting my capabilities at a very young age with some small achievements. Like my father used to take me to walks every weekend. And
this is Tehran?
This is Tehran. Since I was 7-8 years old. And yesterday I thought, how much did we walk? And I just found it on Google Map. And it was our usual route was 14 kilometers.
Wow.
And I used to walk that distance every Friday with
him.
my dad.
Wow.
And he was buying me a book at the end in a bookshop. And that was my reward for every accomplishment.
Oh my God.
And I was thinking, maybe all those...
Wait, every accomplishment or every walk? Not every walk.
Not every walk, but it usually happened.
And he would buy you a book. Isn't this interesting? The woman who becomes the pioneering publisher, that it starts with your dad.
It does. It certainly does. And I think those books shaped me, immersing myself in, imagination, in history, in classical literature, in, imaginative works.
Were they Persian books or English? Or
all Persian, yeah.
All Persian. Did you have a favorite book as a kid?
I remember one of my favorites was Bermuda Triangle. And it's,
what is that?
It was about Bermuda
About the Bermuda Triangle?
Yeah. So
Suspense,
it was one of my...
mystery.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And lots of, I loved poems and lots of poetry. Different things. He suggested me some titles, and I was always very excited to get a new book and read until the next week. And maybe those long journeys together, maybe they taught me determination, like perseverance.
I mean, I joke about overachiever, you know, and there's a lot of accomplished Iranians, but it really is quite remarkable what you've done. I mean, you're to be a medical doctor and to have the PhD in immunology and to be the ex-director of UNESCO and to be an author yourself and to have been a professor and to I mean, do you have a if somebody would say, how do you become that person? You seem functional. You don't seem like a crazy kind of highly A-type personality who doesn't have a balanced life. How did that happen in you?
So first, let me tell you, I don't feel that I'm like very accomplished. If you want me to describe myself, I tell you I'm more brave than highly accomplished.
How are you brave?
Because I could leave, all my medical education and everything just side and start anew.
Which is what you did a few years ago, yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel I was brave to do that. And I'm so grateful for my family to support me for that. And for your question, so I think the upbringing was one of the important parts. So I always saw my family just paying attention to different things at the same time. My education was very important, but also social life was as important and physical activity was as important. So I always had to have walking, sports, also family gatherings. Even in my concours year, I had to go to family parties, like the ones that were important, I couldn't miss. And my father always believed that you can find time for everything.
But I'm glad you mentioned the concours year, because in your concours year, this is before you get into university, you have to take a national test in Iran for the non-Iranians watching. And you're taking the tests in medicine. It's a very difficult, obviously, field. And you come in 16th in the country, right?
Yeah, I'm like,
And your parents are disappointed.
A bit. More my mom.
Oh, not your dad. Not as much.
Not as much.
But because that's not high enough?
Because she expected me to come the first. And
And I mean, sorry, but as a kid or, a teenager, how old would you have been?
18.
17, 18. That's a lot to be, that's a lot to take on. 16th in the country is not good enough, honey,
So it was, so at our year, there were two groups of people competing for medical university, and there were a new system and the old system, and I got 16 in the new, that time, the new education system that they had. But I was one of the best in that year. My mom thought I should be the first, but I think I did great for myself.
Sounds terrible. Top 20 in the country. What a humiliation. You must really hate the person who came number one.
No, because I believe there was a real difference between us.
Do you happen to know the person who came number one that year?
Quite well.
This is an amazing story. So your now husband, Dr. Shahab Anari, is in the same year, at the same time, in the same concours, becomes number one, and you're number 6. You guys end up in university together at Tehran University. And then what? You become friends there.
Yeah.
At what point, and how does that? It's quite remarkable. The two very accomplished people. At what point does that friendship or knowing about the guy who became number one turn into something more?
So I was not like the nerd or the smart guy in medical university. So I was always average in medical university.
I'm sure that's not true.
But
I'm sure you're more than average. But anyway, go ahead.
But if not lower than average. But Shahab and I were classmates all during medical school. But at some point, he wanted to have a concert. So he came to me to design his pamphlets. And I was the guy who...
Why were you someone who designed the pamphlets?
So I always loved drawing, painting, like these kinds of things. I was doing extracurricular, designing postal cards for Nowruz, selling them. So somehow out of the box, not focusing solely on medicine, but doing other things. I loved that. And then he came to me to design his pamphlets, and that started our relationship.
Slick move, by the way. Go to the girl you like, and I'm doing some concerts. Katty, would you help me with some pamphlets?
And yeah, so I helped him, and then he invited us, all our family, to his concert. And yeah, that was the beginning. And you're
interested in each other, but you don't get married until you graduate from school, right?
So we were engaged at the last year, but we married just after graduation.
And that was part of the rule of your dad.
It was.
Your dad was a prominent figure in this.
I was thinking that he had the boundaries and he was clear about them. And I never felt bad about the boundaries, but they were like very clear, very understandable for all of us. And that was good. I don't know.
Well, you're, in a sense, you're lucky, I think, because I'm assuming you really liked medicine. You really liked the things that did you? Do you? No.
No.
Okay. That's the problem then. I mean, that's why you're doing something now, which is amazing. But I would say, without any disrespect to your dad or any Persian parent, that's the part where I sometimes think, to be pushed into, or to have to feel like you have to go into a certain field. I had to rebel, to go into to anything other than engineering or medicine, because that was the expectation.
Yeah.
After a while, they were like, lawyer? Can we just do the lawyer? And I was like, no, I don't think lawyer either. And you have to kind of rebel and disappoint them. That you have to at some point break up with them and say no. There is something there. There is something that you've figured it out now later in life.
At that time also. So when I started medical university, I found that my interest is in immunology. And I don't like seeing patients. I like more doing research and lab work. So I could redirect to the field that I like. And when I graduated, I started working in immunology in an immunology research center. And then just after a year, I was accepted in a PhD in immunology. And I could work as a university professor in immunology.
Yes.
And that was amazing. And I had my own lab, and I was working with, patients in the lab, but not directly seeing patients. So I never liked seeing patients. That was not my thing. But I don't know if I went back again, I would choose medicine. I'm not sure. I don't think so. But I think the experiences really shaped me.
Well, if I look at your journey and where you are now, it makes so much sense that you ended up author, publisher, doing the kind of work that you do, because there's a through line. I mean, now I'm learning your dad was buying you the book and all of that too, but you start translating for the first time as a teenager, a book on immunology. You become a professor and you're dealing obviously with books there. You become the executive director of UNESCO, who was in charge of publishing books.
Yeah.
So what were you learning about, say, the power of books at that time? And in your 20s, working at UNESCO.
So I think books have the power to change lives. And I always like this because they can impact, they can make a lasting impact. And what I saw in my life and in others' lives was that books can inspire, can, give meaning. And now I see it better and better with our clients, whether they are authors. Books change their lives in so many ways, in ways that I can't even imagine. So one of our authors someday told me that when I wrote my book and when I published it, I saw my kids writing their own books. And this is amazing. I couldn't just imagine how it can change my family. And I just hear amazing stories about authors publishing their books, but even about people who read these books. And I don't know if I have ever told you the story of our first book being published in Canada.
No.
So in 2019...
Is it the Successful Canadians book?
Yeah. So in 2019, it was my 40th birthday. So I thought I want to start a conference for the immigrants to learn, connect, and get inspired. And when designing this conference, I told Shahab that, Shahab, it's nice to have the stories of these successful immigrants. And can we publish that? And he said yes. And he's such a good project manager. So we did that in 4 or 5 months. And the authors were happy, but then one day during COVID, somebody called me and told me I was so much disappointed, so much sad and depressed. And I looked at my bookshelf and I saw a Canadian success book. I just took it and I just started reading. And by the end of the second chapter, I felt I need to do something. Wow. And now I'm so happy she has opened her second branch. And these stories inspire me every day. So there are countless stories of people who just read these stories of challenges and get inspired.
You came to Canada about 10 years ago. Soon after that, you and Dr. Shahab, your husband, set up North Star Success. It's not something small. When you say I'm brave for leaving medicine, you really are. Like it's a big deal to have committed all of that time and all of that focus to and the status that comes with it, the prominent status of being a doctor, in any country, including this one, Canada. To make that decision, I'm going to move into coaching and then to publishing, etc. How hard a decision was that for you? And how did you talk to your parents about that?
So the most important part is just decide that I don't care. Like, it's not important how people judge. So I never fear their judgment, because this is my life. I want to do it the way I want. And when I decided this, it was for the interest of my family, because I couldn't leave my son for those long hours in daycare and then get stuck in the traffic and then just feel bad. But it was for my own self as well, because I thought I have worked for a couple of years. I have had the experience, and now I want to enjoy my motherhood as well. And I want some freedom in my time and in my job. And so it was brave for me, but I decided that I won't get hurt if people judge me. And there's a judgment always. So everybody who sees me, they tell me, it's hard for doctors to, start here And I say, yes, it is hard. And I decided not to. And I'm not afraid of them judging me that I couldn't. Maybe if I did try, I couldn't. So I never tried. But it's not important for me. The important thing for me was my own, life. And I thought that I will not have these years ever again. So I want them the way I like.
The courage for me in what you did, it doesn't necessarily come from the judgment of others. I mean, I understand that's obviously a big deal, especially in our community, in the Iranian community. Being a doctor has such a elevated kind of status and vibe about it that anything like I can even hear my parents would be like, why would she leave that? It's like, but on a more personal level too, it's a tough one because, you know how hard you work to get to there, and the pressure of I mean, there's economics, there's like, okay, if I stay in this field, medicine, I know I'm going to probably do pretty well in terms of putting the food on the table and for the family and all of that, but who knows if I'm going into publishing or that type of thing. That's where the courage comes in. And I'm guessing you probably couldn't have made that decision at the age of 25 or 30, that you had to really grow the confidence to make that decision that you made just a few years ago.
For sure, previous experiences helped me a lot. I started a private laboratory in Iran a few years before I came to Canada, and it was tough, but at the same time, very rewarding. I loved it. And I can't deny how Shahab helped me on these decisions. So whenever I want to start something new, he gives me so much support that I don't feel alone. But on a personal level, it's always hard and challenging. But I loved it. I had the experience a few times, and I wanted to again start.
After that Canadian Success Stories book, the Canadian Success is what it's called, comes out, and you start to get the bug now for working more on books and in publishing, and you decide to work on a book about people at the beginning of COVID coping during COVID. This becomes a book called COVID Acts of Kindness that then develops quite a story for you guys. It kind of goes viral in as much as books can go that way. Tell me about the impetus for that book, and then this what ends up being a world record associated with that book.
So I was driving one day, and I saw all the streets empty, all the shops closed, and I thought, I really wanted to know how people felt in the previous COVID in 1900s. And then I thought, so what happens when this COVID finishes and it's an end to this COVID, and then nobody remembers what happened? So we should have something out of it. And then I told Shahab that I want to write a book about people's experiences in this COVID. And when we announced the book, there were a huge interest, and then we went for a Guinness World Record for the most number of authors signing the book simultaneously, and we went over 150. So
it's a book that includes is a compendium of a bunch of different stories that different authors have written.
Yeah,
and then
184 authors from around the world.
Wow! And so, how do you get them all to sign?
Oh, that was so difficult.
And who knew this was even something that was a record? I mean,
there were lots of evaluators and lots of guidelines, and we were like 3 days.
Sorry. So the record, let me just to clarify, the record is the number of people, authors, signing a book at the same time
in 10 seconds period.
What was the previous record?
About 50 or something, and we were over 150.
So how do you organize this?
It was really tough, because the time differences, everybody from like around the world, and all the cameras should be correct, all the times should be correct, a big team. And it took 3 days to evaluate all the screens one by one. And we were like very worried because we couldn't do it again. It was so challenging.
Were they on Zoom? Or were
It was on Zoom.
On Zoom. So, it's like go, and you have 10 seconds for everybody to sign. They all have a hard copy.
They should also show. So we had a lot of practices how to sign at the same time, show it in the screen, and the screen should be in a good place. The cameras should capture and everything. Yeah.
So you are now in the Guinness Book of World Records?
Yeah.
As the publisher, or who gets do you get a trophy or something? Or
we get like a certificate, and all the authors participated also got their certificate.
Wow, it's very cool. I don't know if that record will ever be broken. It's like some kind of
I wish not.
yeah, I mean, who could break that record? It's first of all, you have to have a book with that many authors.
It was an experience, even if that record is broken, it was a very good experience of teamwork, because you know how Iranians say that we're not good for teamwork, but we did, like in a few months, we published the book with 184 authors, and we did even went for the record, and we all did it together with different time zones, with different, technology issues. And what if the internet is not good? What if I'm broken? What if, it was hard, but at the same time, it was so exciting.
When I think about people writing books now, it's a different era. I mean, even in the last 2 years, it's become a different era because of AI and ChatGPT and all the possibilities of throwing an idea into a computer and having it spit out an entire book for you. How has that affected you as a publisher and what you tell people in terms of who is writing their stories?
So I think AI is a great tool and asset to benefit from when writing a story, when writing a book, but it's not all. The idea behind a book, the real experiences, the real stories, that's what is the cornerstone of the book. And AI can just help, like an editor, like a ghostwriter, to turn those ideas into the book. But if you just send some, prompts into ChatGPT and then get a book out of it, there's no real connection. There won't be real connection with people. And so I think it's a very useful asset, but it could be used besides your own journey, your own challenges, your own experiences.
But it might, before too long, replace ghostwriters, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, if somebody has an outline and gives it to AI, it's going to be as good as a mediocre ghostwriter, surely, no?
I think, again, those emotions might be
harder to replicate.
Yeah, so I think ghostwriter has its own place still because of those emotions that come into place. Like when you choose a ghostwriter, you find somebody who can relate to that story, who can write that story very well. So I'm not sure if it's replaceable right now, but I think they can help each other. Like the ghostwriter shouldn't start from the scratch. And for sure, these are all assets we can use, and it's becoming easier. But at the same time, the need for more content, more purpose-driven content is stronger than ever.
You've now published over 400 authors.
Yeah.
You said earlier that when they write one book for you, they then want to write more. What is that about?
So when I say we are publishers, we just don't print their books. We support them in every step, so from their ideas how it can share their message, to writing, to editing, polishing the work, positioning it, and publishing it. So we support them in every step. And when I first meet every author, I tell them that there is a social responsibility in our authors that I'm familiar with. And when they publish their first work, I know that there's something born in them, and it's their author, character, which is born. And from now on, you're not the person you were before. And this new person, I know, wants to make more impact. And I always tell them, this won't be your last book. So just focus on your message and leave the rest for your next books. And most of them, they return for their 4th, 5th book. And it's so, it's a very good sense for me to feeling that they just see their world in a new way as an author.
Is there a type of book that I'm sure there is. What is the type of book that people are more inclined to be reading these days?
So I think these days there are different different trends in publishing. So people like different formats, audiobooks, ebooks. And one of the things that today I think is gaining more popularity is the multi-author books, because they bring different perspectives into one subject all at the same time. So I think these books are one of the books that gain more popularity. Also, lots of expert books on subjects, like professionals who write about their experiences, their wisdom, and their lessons that have learned on a subject. So these books, I think, are very relevant these days.
It sounds like you mostly deal in nonfiction, right? Yes. Not in fiction at all.
No.
And so it's facts, true stories, experts, etc. And that makes sense for this era. I mean, I still love fiction as well, because that's where you really escape with a book. But it makes sense that people are gravitating towards something that is practical, helpful, based in sort of reality, but more in depth than what they're going to get on social media or something like that.
And short.
And the book should be short?
No, like each chapter can be on its own, short and complete.
When you think of one of your authors or one of the books that has been a really great story in terms of where it has taken that person or how it's connected, what do you think of?
So we have an author. She started in COVID time with us. She's a very strong woman who immigrated to Germany and
from Iran.
And in COVID time, she started writing with us her first story about her challenges. And when she published that book, she told me that I had a book in my mind for many years that I wanted to write, and with publishing this book, I could bring this other book to life. And then she published the other book just in a few months. And then she came for the third book actually with us. And in the third book, she wrote about a cafe that she wants to create. And she described it in this book. And the book was published. And she told me after opening her cafe that there were so many challenges on the way. There were times that I said, I can't do it anymore. And I told myself, I have published it in a book. I need to do it. And she opened the cafe, and the people are amazed when they go to her cafe and see her as an author. And she just tells so many different stories about, how it helped her business. And one of the
Her own book was keeping her in check,
yeah,
right? To stay on her focus.
And then it's really all helped her business to grow, her cafe to gain attention, like an author opening a restaurant, a cafe. And she told me once I was on a train and for some reason, I have forgotten my ID with me. And in Germany, they are so strict about this. So they checked my ticket and they said, "Where is your ID?" And I said, "I forgot my ID." And they said, "Okay, you have a ticket." And I said, "But I am this person on the ticket. I have my book." And she showed her book. And the person said, "Oh my God, you are an author. That's amazing."
Right,
and she was like, "Even it helps when you're on a train. So take your book everywhere with yourself."
That's true. It's such a great pleasure getting to talk to you. It's so interesting because you're so clearly still on the journey. As you say, there's never a wrong time to write the book. There's never a wrong time to do this kind of career interview because, but we are likely going to have to do it again in 5 years or 10 years because I can't wait to see what Katty Bidad does next. Before I let you go, I mean, if you were to say, what is the most gratifying part of your work as a publisher today, what would it be?
For me, is the impact and the lasting impact that we have, and helping people achieve their dreams and goals. I love the fact that when they have a dream of an idea becoming a reality as a book, I can help them. And this never ends with time. So it's always there. And it's very important for me.
Your story is inspiring. It's been great to have you here. Thank you for doing this. And, can't wait to see what else you do.
Thank you.
And thanks for standing up for books around the world, carrying on the mission for books around the world. Thanks, Katty.
Thank you.
All right. That's full time for Roqe for today. You okay, Roham? Roham just fell. Thank you to Dr. Katty Bidad. Thank you to Sara Rahimi. Thanks to the amazing team who put this show together each week. Super Parisa, Sanjarani, Savvy Roham Meher, Tina the photo and video queen, Farahi, and Ghazaleh the OG, Qasemi. Special thanks to Smart Pega, Talented Anahita, Solid Samin, and The Methodical Kabe. Thank you to all of you out there for supporting us, for sharing our content, for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed already, you can just subscribe for free on any or all of our platforms. If you only listen to this show on audio, you can watch it on YouTube. Remember that now. It's all video. And if you only watch it on video, you can listen to it on audio on any of our podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify. Find me on Instagram at Jian Gomeshi. Find the show on Instagram at Roqe Media. And as ever, in the meantime, Mizun Bashi.